Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I'm so incredibly happy to be telling you guys out there in the audience that Tiffany A. Henyard, the super mayor, one of the most corrupt politicians in America today, is finally, and I mean finally, under investigation by the state attorney general, because at this point she's just gone too far and it's transformed from a story being reported by the local news and being shared to you by various YouTubers to a national controversy. So she actually went too far, she crossed the line, and now she's in the crosshairs of the state attorney general, and that's what I want to talk about today. But before we get into this golden story, we got to talk about your retirement and gold, so let me toss it to the sponsor, bring it back over here, and we'll discuss it on the other side. Gold has surpassed $2,100 an ounce, and recently former President Donald J. Trump warned that the US losing its reserve currency status would be the greatest defeat in our 200-plus year history. Now we have conflicts breaking out in Israel, breaking out between Yemen and all over the Middle East, and all of this spells disaster for the economic outlook. On top of that, we also have an election year, and let's be honest, the incentives are to lower the interest rates. When you lower the interest rates, that incentivizes more borrowing, and guess what? There appears to be a correlation between the national debt and the price of gold. Back in the day when we had $23 trillion in national debt, gold was in and around $1,500 an ounce. Now that we're at $33 trillion of national debt, we're up above $2,100. This is one of the reasons why I'm partnering with National Gold Group, because you can help secure your IRA, diversify by putting some of your money in precious metals. And right now, for those of you out there in my audience, they are offering a wonderful offer where you can get a fee waiver for IRAs for qualifying transfers. Now, if you're interested in diversifying your portfolio and protecting your investments from oncoming economic troubles, call them at 866-826-2603 and mention Actual Justice Warrior this channel so that you can get in on all the great deals for you guys out there in my audience. Again, that's 866-826-2603, or click the top link in the pinned comment or the top of the description of this video. There is always a risk with any investment, and past performance is not necessarily a guarantee of future outcome. Now, if you're not familiar with Tiffany A. Henyard, there is honestly so many different things in the backstory that all I can really do is link one of my previous videos, because I will waste way too much time trying to recap this for you. So I'm going to give you the real long and short of it. Tiffany A. Henyard, first black woman elected mayor of Dalton. She is also the Thornton Township supervisor, so she holds two elected offices at the same time. She currently makes more in her salary, almost $300,000, than the governor of Illinois, and she has been caught repeatedly charging personal expenses to the taxpayer, billing them for luxury trips, including first-class tickets to Las Vegas.
WGN Investigates obtained copies of that agency's credit card statements as well. They show township taxpayers also spent money on the Vegas trip, on everything from steak dinners to hotels, and $3,741 just on Henyard's round-trip flight.
As well as a bunch of other unjustifiable expenses, and when confronted about this, she talks about how she is entitled to not provide receipts, not provide what was purchased to the township, to the city council, and they need to just pay what she needs to be paid.
But I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
When trustees refused to pay a big block of bills this week, the mayor accused them of putting vital city services in jeopardy.
We need receipts to understand what's going on.
Now, Henyard also illegally hired a convicted sex offender that she was a friend with to go into people's homes as an inspector.
46-year-old Lavelle Redmond is close friends with Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who in September hired Redmond as a code enforcement officer without the village board's approval. Redmond served 25 years in prison for the brutal gang rape and beating of two young teenage girls.
She also has bought off the police department, paying them insane, exorbitant overtime, most damning of which is the 303 hours for a 2-week pay period.
The officers are paid every 2 weeks, which without overtime is 80 hours. But when they're put on Henyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
How does a person put in a 2-week pay period, 303 hours? That's impossible. That's impossible.
336
Does he never
hours.
go to sleep?
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks.
Among many other things that, again, I just can't get into right now. But what she's actually being investigated for is the fact that Tiffany Henyard started a charity. She started a nonprofit in order to deal with breast cancer because Tiffany cares, and the reason I know that is because she put her face all over this charity and she called it Tiffany Cares. And this is specifically designed to raise money for breast cancer, and already we're running into issues right off the bat as soon as she started this organization, because one of the first big donations that she received related to this charity was from the Thornton Township. And remember, she's not only the mayor of Dalton, but she's also on the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors. So maybe, just maybe, this sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest, her giving taxpayer money to her own nonprofit. But let us go into the story and we'll see if you think that might be a little bit suspicious.
Check it out.
The Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation posts videos highlighting walks and other events that prominently feature the politician proudly promoting her cancer charity.
I just want people to know that, hey, Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation is here. We will help anybody in need.
So I just want to pause right here for station identification so you guys know that I'm not just playing a random clip that has nothing to do with anything. All of these videos, all of these promos that predominantly feature Tiffany A. Henyard that might look to you like they're promoting specifically Tiffany A. Henyard and not a charity related to breast cancer are in fact the charity videos. Now you might be asking yourself, is this about the charity? And the answer to that question is no. Or is this about promoting Tiffany Henyard? And the answer to that question is yes. But I just want you to understand that this is the charitable materials that they're producing. And no, there are no filings with the IRS federally or with the state of Illinois, despite the fact that they received, upon the founding of this organization, $10,000 from the Thornton Board of Supervisors, a position, by the way, which Tiffany A. Henyard is one of those supervisors, so she gave herself that much money to start out with. Also very notable, if you look at the top left of your screen, you will see that this video, which is a promo for the charity, is featured on the Thornton Township YouTube channel. So we have a situation where it's insanely suspicious that a Thornton Township Board of Supervisors is voting to funnel money to her own charity that doesn't file the necessary paperwork, and at the same time, they're using the government resources, the government YouTube channel, in order to advertise that charity.
She certainly may help some, but Henyard's charity has failed to file required financial statements showing income and expenses. WGN Investigates obtained this letter from December, in which the Illinois Attorney General threatened civil penalties are imposed against persons who do not register with this office as required.
She is on a local government board, two actually. One she's the mayor of, one she's on the Board of Supervisors, and she's not even registered in the state of Illinois. This isn't even, for all intents and purposes, a real charity. It does not actually exist in any way, shape, or form, because you can't be a nonprofit and not file your federal IRS forms and all of that. And you can't be a nonprofit based in the state of Illinois if you don't file your forms associated with being a nonprofit in the state of Illinois. So this is just a blanket fraudulent charity that, again, the Thornton Township gave money to, and by the way, keeps giving money to, which we will get into a little bit later, even though, again, it appears to be completely fake, completely fraudulent, just a way to launder money and pay for vacations for Tiffany A. Henyard. And yes, we are getting ahead of ourselves.
But there's no foundation in the state of Illinois moving like we move, shaking, moving like we do. Right?
That's right.
Henyard mixes her two taxpayer-funded jobs and charity work.
Anybody else after that, Betty? That's it?
That's Keith Freeman sitting next to her at a Dalton meeting where he's the village administrator. Freeman is also an advisor to Thornton Township, and he's the guy listed as the registered agent of Tiffany Henyard's foundation.
I mean, think about how absurd this is. You have all these different people that are working in the government. You have all these different people that are dealing with the delegating of taxpayer money. Reportedly, Tiffany A. Henyard has basically bankrupted this town, bankrupted this area by spending at a deficit of $5 million. And considering these are small towns outside of Chicago, this isn't the big city, this is just Illinois, again, towns of 20,000 people and whatnot, that's absolutely insane. And then you come to find out that this charity is receiving receiving taxpayer money, and you have two officials working together in order to delegate that money. This is a whole corrupt machine. We spend a lot of time talking about Tiffany A. Henyard because she is the self-made face of that corrupt machine, but make no mistake about it, a huge portion of the Board of Supervisors, a huge portion of her City Hall are in on it. This is a scam, and guess what? If you're a taxpayer in Illinois, you're being scammed. You're being defrauded.
I think it's just about personal gain and trying to use it as more of a publicity type thing.
Chris Gonzalez is the last surviving critic of Henyard on the Thornton Township Board. He and other critics say public money has been used to fund Henyard's private charity. They say board members were asked to approve a $10,000 payment to the foundation in 2022, days before a much publicized cancer walk from Dalton to Springfield.
And look, they just proved out what I just told you. You have one critic of Henyard on the township board. Just one. And then you come to find out that what I said about the transaction, the $10K, is proven out. It was voted upon, even though it's a clear and obvious conflict of interest to the tune of $10,000, but it doesn't stop there.
Thornton Township credit card records show taxpayers then footed the bill for more than $10,000 in hotel rooms along the route.
So on the surface, where everybody can see, the Thornton Township was given $10,000 and it was voted upon. Sure, it's a corrupt voting process, but at least that was out in the open that they were giving this $10,000 to this nonprofit. Now, does this happen with governments? Of course, it happens in all kinds of different governments, but typically somebody or two people on the Thornton Township board or on the board that is voting for this should not be recipients of that money. But of course, Tiffany A. Henyard can't stop there. She had to also charge the entirety of the expenses for the walk, not to the charity that just got $10,000, but to Thornton Township. So that's $10,000 plus in hotel bills, again, not being paid for by the charity that's holding the walk, but being paid for by the township. But of course, it gets worse because those are just the hotel purchases. The amount of money that was wasted on this extends far beyond that.
I saw the video. Township vehicles being used, township employees being used. Once again, were they paid? Were they given comp time or things of that nature? So there's just, unfortunately, there's a long list. Hotel use, meals.
As you could see in the video with the police vehicles and all that, there's actually a bunch of different government officials that are being paid, that are getting their hotels covered and all that, and a bunch of resources overall that are being spent, again, on the nonprofit, something that is supposed to be separate from the government to a certain extent, and something that you're not supposed to be able to bill the expenses directly to the government, but they're doing it anyway. The police are being paid to escort these people from place to place. People are getting their salaries while they're participating in this walk, and as we come to find out through the investigation from the Illinois Attorney General, they are not even explaining or pretending to explain how this helps anybody with cancer.
Actually, yeah, we have a lot more questions, but neither Tiffany Henyard nor her advisor Keith Freeman responded to our request for comment, and the two governments they control, they've stopped releasing their financial records requested by us under the Freedom of Information Act. We'll see. The Illinois Attorney General plans to make another demand for information about Henyard's charity this week.
Now look, on this channel, we've covered so many different things, so many different wastes of taxpayer money that should have got Tiffany A. Henyard at least investigated, but more likely got her put in federal prison, and we talked about how she's just belligerent. She never ever takes accountability. She always blames everybody else, says she doesn't have control over this or that, and yet over and over again we see that she is the beneficiary of the largesse of the taxpayer purse. Well, guess what? Now they're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of dealing with it. They're sick and tired of putting up with it. And what I mean by they is the two governments that she is involved with, because now they're rejecting and not responding to Freedom of Information Act requests, because their problem is that you can actually see the financial statements of Thornton Township and of the city of Dalton, and that's what they want to cut off. So they're nerfing transparency even further. They're trying to steal even more. It's so obvious, it's right in your face. It took it to be charity fraud and her to not file her financial disclosures for there to even be an investigation. So the only question is, how much more money can Tiffany A. Henyard and company loot before somebody actually gets arrested and sent to jail? Let me know the dollar amount down in the comments below. But again, this is what is going on in the state of Illinois. This is what is going on in Dalton. This is what is going on in the Thornton Thornton Township. It's absolute madness in every possible way. If you tried to do this, you would be in jail instantly the moment that you try to execute this. But for some reason, this lady, pictured here with Joe Biden, seems to be immune to almost everything. Now, as usual, if you like the video, I want you to show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Tiffany A. Henyard, maybe, potentially, finally going down. Who knows? Till next time.